Charlie was telling us about ESMAD, the Colombian riot police. It's a very brutal riot police, and it was used 15 years ago today to help drive out the unarmed villagers of the village of Tobacco in La Guajira in Colombia, so that the British-owned Cerrejón coal mine could expand. And when these British companies bought into that mine, it was just after that that terrible eviction took place, and shortly after it was finished, those three companies listed on the London Stock Exchange, Anglo-American, BHP Billiton and Glencore, took over complete control of the mine between them. And when we complained to them about what had been done by ESMAD and by private security working on behalf of the mining company, they said, that wasn't us. That was the former operator of the mine. Never mind that between them they already owned half the mine. It was the former operator that was responsible for that. And it would never happen again. It was a legacy issue. They were never going to do that kind of thing again. And then what happened on February the 24th this year? ESMAD went back into another African descent community called Arroyo and surrounded the one single remaining family that was left in that village. ESMAD, armed riot police, surrounded one single unarmed family to drive it off its land, because that family had gone back to their land out of dissatisfaction with the deal that the mining company had struck with them. That family had resisted being relocated to a semi-urban plot where they wouldn't have enough land to live on, into substandard housing with hardly any space around it, that forced them to stop being rural farmers and producers and to start being semi-urban consumers. And they only signed that agreement because they were surrounded by riot police in October of last year and told, you better sign this agreement, otherwise we're going to kick you out and demolish your house anyway. So surprise, surprise, they signed an agreement. But out of dissatisfaction they went back to their house and to their land, and ESMAD, the Colombian riot police, was sent back in on the 24th of February this year on behalf of these three London companies, Anglo-American, BHP Billiton and Glencore, to kick this poor farming family off its land so that this huge mine could expand, so that these three enormously rich companies listed on the London Stock Exchange could continue to make big profits out of mining the land that these small farmers had been kicked off. And when I went to visit those communities and this mine a few weeks ago, one of the things that I learned was that the big holes in the ground, these huge open cast coal pits from which these three London companies derive such profits, are named after the villages that have been destroyed or are being destroyed so that the mine can expand. And I spoke to the people in the award-winning Land Reclamation Department, who were understandably proud of the way they'd put back land that had been mined out under vegetation again, and plants, trees were growing again. But they told me the thing that they had to watch out for, that they hoped the Colombian government would help them with, is to stop the farmers coming back onto the land that they used to farm because they'd spoiled vegetation that this mining company department had put back on the land. So there's the final insult. You come into communities that have been farming the land in some cases for a couple of 100 years, who've lived in harmony with the land, with their small herds, with their small amount of crops, living in support of the neighbouring communities, exchanging produce with one another. You kick them off the land with the help of ESMAD, riot police, with the help of the army, with the help of armed private security guards. You force them into semi-urban communities if they're lucky, or into penury if they're unlucky. You take away their independence, you take away their livelihood, and then once you've mined out the land, taking away the soil and the vegetation and the water, you put the vegetation back again and you say, we need the Colombian government to stop the farmers coming back because they'll spoil the land. So people are kicked and kicked and kicked again so that huge London-based companies can make enormous profits. so that the Colombian government elite and the local government elite can make profits. But the people who suffer are the people who've been living on that land for hundreds of years, the indigenous Wayuu people and the descendants